Peace and blessings, family. It's Sam P.K. Collins. I'm right here in the space. I'm headed into a workshop not too long from now, and I just felt the need to briefly reflect on a topic of great interest to myself, and I believe to many of the people who are concerned about children in the state of education, as it relates to teacher burnout and things of that nature. Just last week, we observed Teacher Appreciation Week, and teachers had the opportunity, as you can see in articles I've written, they have had the opportunity to speak about teacher burnout and to collaborate with one another on best ways to mitigate teacher burnout and even ways to choose schools whose values align with theirs so that they have more opportunities to explore their interests, to shape their classroom in the way that they want, and to maintain an adequate work-life balance. A lot of that you can see in the Washington Informer article that I wrote this upcoming week, or that was released this week. In regards to Teacher Appreciation Week, not even Teacher Appreciation Week, but just the status of teachers and burnout. In my experiences as a full-time teacher and as a teacher and journalist in this day and age, I'm of the understanding that teacher burnout is a result of us as a community. And when I say community, I mean the institutions that are these Babylon public schools and public charter schools, the expectations that are put on teachers to not only teach, but to be parents to the children, to be counselors to the children, and whatsoever else you put on their plate as teachers. And that is not the way that it should be. This is not lean on me. These teachers are not Joe Clark. They are not miracle workers. They are not everything to everybody, and that should not be that way. The way that the structures are set up right now, the onus is placed on the teachers to make sure that children pass an insurmountable amount of tests and their progress makes leaps and bounds, when in fact we know without any kind of uncertainty that the reason why children are falling behind so-called in school has little to do with what happens in the building. It is because of what's happening outside of the building and what has happened in the months and years before that child was born and after they were born. So we can't place the onus completely on teachers, and teachers cannot be expected to become miracle workers. We need structures in place similar to what you see in homeschools and in African-centered communities, where teachers are working in alignment with institutions as well as parents, and where parents and community members and parent figures, as a matter of fact, are collaboratively working with teachers and are holding students accountable in the same way that teachers are. Because the way that it is right now, it is screaming dependence on government. It is screaming dependence on Babylon institutions. It is screaming I have no responsibility for my children, so I'm going to give them to the state, and whatever happens is on them, when in case it should not be that. The salvation of our children depends totally on our ability to do for self, in the sense that we are holding ourselves accountable to their education from the very moment that they leave the womb and come into this world, because it is not totally dependent on teachers. Even as a parent, if you don't have the know-how, the least that you can do is instill certain values in your children and make sure that they are prepared for the teachers who are attempting to equip them with those tangible skills. But it is not there yet. We are not there yet as a community. Everything is disjointed, and we have a relentless dependence on government, and in every step we turn, we try to blame government for what is happening, when in fact we should be our own government. And I'll leave it there as I walk inside and speak to these children, and they'll tell you themselves, when they're talking about their lives and how it is that they end up in certain situations, they often refer back to family life. They refer back to community and the lack thereof. So the question is, what are we as adults prepared to do to create the world that we want to see? We cannot keep blaming teachers. We cannot keep putting the onus on them, because teachers are human. They have their own families, and teachers basically, for the most part, they're with your children for 8 hours a day. Some of them, if we're talking about on a class-by-class basis, with the one child, they're with their child for about an hour and a half, or an hour, 15 minutes. So nothing that they're going to do as far as changing the child's life is going to take place in that time. And it's time that we stop